Hello and welcome back to another Hex TCG draft video here. This first pack's kind of interesting because Flufftail Cloudcolor here is like a nice top-end bomb that can kind of go over the top of a lot of stuff, but that's also because it costs 7 resources. Unless your opponent is playing Ada, Flufftail Cloudkiller is often going to be too slow and clunky, I feel like, to have a reasonable impact on the board. I think the actual pick in this pack is probably the Cloudbounder. I love this card in general, just a 3-3 for 5 with Mobilize and Flight, so this can often be a 3-3 for just 3 resources if you have a 2-drop to proceed it with. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the Cloudbounder up here and see where the rest of the signals go from there. As we look at this next pack here, we actually have a lot of pretty good cards in this pack. There must have been a very good rare in this pack because someone passed the Decree of Banishing. Not only is there another Cloudbounder in this pack, but there's also this Warpsteel Shardsworn. I think I want to prioritize taking the quality removal here on the Decree of Banishing. I could see it being right to just like snap this second Cloudbounder, but I really have a hard time passing Decree of Banishing. I think it's objectively the best piece of common and uncommon removal in the format, and I'm happy to move into Diamond to pick up one of these. I think it's pretty unlikely that either the Warpsteel Shardsworn or the other Cloudbounder wheel, but I think picking up the Decree of Banishing is worthwhile there. And this next pack here, as far as our Sapphire and Diamond cards are concerned, Copycat, while a very potent force in Standard, is not particularly good in Limited. The 5x Sapphire threshold cost is kind of prohibitive. Uncommons remaining in this pack are pretty terrible. I think the good remaining commons for our shards are Windborne Ascension and Galleon Spearcliff. I think Windborne Ascension is a little bit more powerful on average. It gives us something to do with our resources early. Also, this card sometimes creates total bombs like, say, Fentio or Underworld Officer, so I think the upside on this card is pretty high, and the floor is also not that low. Not married to either of these shards by any means. If we start seeing powerful bombs in a different shard, we might pivot, but shape it up pretty well to be a Diamond Sapphire Ada deck. Nothing particularly exciting in this pack in either direction. We're not really interested in Dread Deployment, Windswim. Shroud is like pseudo-playable, but I'm definitely not third picking it. I think I'm going to go ahead and pick up the Flame Guard here. This could be a sign that we might want to move into Ruby. This is a pretty quality uncommon here. Perhaps we saw Rock Slider pass already. If the Rock Slider wheels back around, we could move into a potential Ruby Sapphire Theros deck, I think. Wait and see how that goes. I don't like picking up Rock Sliders on the first pass in the first pack, but in the second pass, it's definitely more than reasonable. If they wheel, that means there's not really anyone else in that archetype, but it's something we probably want to move into. So we look at our next pack here. Webscribe is just a really powerful card. It's 1-3 for 2 that says when you gain a charge, target opposing troop gets -2 power until the start of your next turn. So I'm 10 out of 10 just going to go ahead and pick that up. The Sweep Away is an okay card, but other than that, there's anything else too terribly exciting in this pack. So getting pretty firmly into Sapphire here at this point, but not quite sure if we want to be Diamond or Ruby for our second shard yet. Okay, there's a Rock Slider in this pack, and if the other Rock Slider wheels out of the one we passed earlier, that would be a good excuse to move into the Ruby Sapphire Marzul Charges Matters deck, so I think I'm going to go ahead and pick this up. Web Scribe isn't an Ardent Troop for Marzul, but the fact that it just gives troops minus power when you gain a charge means that it makes it really hard for opponents to race your aggressive deck, since all of our Ardent Troops will be generating charges for us with Marzul's ability. So hopefully the other Rock Slider comes back around. It's a little bit of an early Rock Slider pickup, but there wasn't anything else too particularly powerful in that pack, so I don't think that that's too poor of an idea to grab now. Speaking of things that continue to be good for us, I'm 10 out of 10 going to grab the Ayotachi coins here. Love this in the Rock Slider decks. Love coins in general. Hopefully the Furious Blitzer comes back around to us. I really like this card in the top end of the Marzul decks. It's not a particularly high pick priority for a lot of decks either, so there's a good chance that that wheels, even though there's only going to be 3 cards in that pack when it comes back to us. I've definitely gotten like 14th and 15th pick Blitzers before because they're not super powerful. This Decree of Banishing we could possibly splash if we get like some kind of Diamond Bomb like an Ardent Officer in the 3rd pack that's worth splashing as well, but we'll wait and see. Nothing's decided automatically by any means. Let's look at this next pack here. Galleon Duelist is the closest thing to a playable here. Nothing else in here is too terribly exciting, so I'm going to go ahead and grab that. I don't like Deadeye Invoker in these Charges Batters deck. The Scrounge 2 to play gain 2 charges. Like, okay if you end up in a Theros Charges Batters deck somehow, but I think on average, you're just not going to be super happy with playing that card. And this Dex pack here, I guess Zap is like kind of a playable trick in the Marzul deck if we end up really light on playables, so I guess I'll pick that up, but I'm not like super excited to grab this. There's a good chance that I'd be kind of surprised if this ends up in our main deck as we finish our draft deck up here if our deck ends up strong. I actually really like Ashwood Minstrel in this style of deck. Not only is it another 2-drop to enable our Cloudbounder, but it helps accelerate us into things like Galleon Duelist and other possible things. If we get a Blitzer that comes back around between this pack or the next one, we can turn 3 Blitzer off of Ashwood Minstrel as well, which is fairly powerful. So, Eerie Explosive Interlude here is a card that's like not super exciting, but we're kind of light on removal so far, so I'm 10 out of 10 going to go ahead and pick this up. I think this was the pack that also had the Rock Slider in it. It was either this pack or the next one, so it's kind of unfortunate if it looks like someone else picked that up from us, but we do still have another pack here to get some Charges Matters payoffs. Web Scribe's kind of a payoff, but would like some more Rock Sliders for sure. I'm going to grab the Shroud here. I don't think... I'd be kind of surprised if this ends up in our main deck, but it's not the worst if it does. I dragged the wrong card into here, apparently. What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? Yep, just kind of the dredge into the pack here. Let's see what they have up next. Yep, so the other Rock Slider did not come back around. That's kind of sad. There's probably just got to the point where, like, there weren't that many playables left in the pack and someone staked it up. Hopefully we're not going to be fighting with someone else for Charges Batters cards. Alright, well, we get super paid off here in this pack. Like super sad, right? Like I think Mystic Naturals might be the slightly more powerful card, but the fact that it's double Sapphire is kind of a turnoff, and Righteous Outlaw is like $3 or $4, and they're both pretty playable in our deck. So I think I'm going to go ahead and grab the Righteous Outlaw here, not only for... I think it's close on power level, and like the fact that Righteous Outlaw is worth some dollars is definitely worth it. Okay, we get a Feed the Flames in here. There's only one card we're interested in. We're looking for more quality rule for deck, and I think this is sort of this is the best piece of common Ruby removal in the format for us. So 10 out of 10, gonna go ahead and pick that up. So I'm probably going to hide this Shroud for now. I don't think we're too interested in starting that. Ideally, we're going to have enough playables that we don't need that card. So we got like 10 playables here. Remember, the coin, while it's definitely going in our deck, does not count as a playable for our deck. We're actually kind of ending up on just a Sapphire Splash, which I think is fine. Like, Cloudbounder is pretty powerful, and so is Webscribe. I could see, again, if we get some powerful Diamond cards in this pack, or the next one just, like, pivoting from Sapphire into Diamond for the Decree of Banishing, and whatever the other powerful Diamond card is. Wow. Okay, so we should have a really good... We should have a pretty good next pack, because this Pyre Strike made it past a few people, and this is just one of the best pieces of Ruby removal in the format. In fact, I think it's the second best piece of removal in the format, right after Decree of Banishing. You could make an argument that Strangle is a little bit more powerful, but the fact that Strangle is double blood, I think, makes it slightly weaker on average. I would love if this Iotachi coin wheels around to us, and since there's still going to be 14 cards in this pack left when we pass it, I feel like there's a good chance that does, but Pyre Strike is certainly the pickup here. The Sweep Away would not be a terrible consolation prize from that pack if the Iotachi coin doesn't wheel, but I think the coin's pretty likely to come back around to us. Next, after a bunch of really good packs, we get kind of a medium -1 here. How greedy am I? Is a question I often have to ask myself here. So we could just be like conservative and take the coin here, but like, I could take this Surging Wildfire and try and splash it into here. Like, hope to see a Roidbot in this pack and like a Tinkertron in the next one. This card's so powerful. 1/4, Rage 1 with speed when it attacks, deals damage equal to its power directly to the opponent. We'll 10 out of 10 play the coin, and we likely will play the Surging Wildfire. That might be a greedy pickup, especially considering it's not an Ardent Troop too. Alright, I'm just going to go ahead and grab the coin. This coin's actually a very good combat trick in Limited too, so... This pack doesn't have anything too particularly exciting in it. I think we just cut someone off of a Dread Transport here, because that's going to make their deck better. I don't think there's anything in this pack that we're likely to play. I guess I could take the... Yeah, I'm going to take the Talonkeep Watcher, actually. On the off chance we get 1 to 2 more of these, and like we get some other payoff in Diamond, we might still move into that, but I think we're pretty firmly into these 2 shards at this point. What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? Parallel Realities is kind of a sweet card. Target troop you control gets when this attacks, summon a copy of this, then revert it. That's kind of expensive, but it's pretty good with Rock Slider and Cloudbounder. Is it better than just taking the Furious Blitzer here? This is kind of like... Yeah, actually... Speaking of Blitzer, I didn't notice the Blitz here at first. Yeah, I'm actually going to take the Blitz. I think this is a very good combat trick, and it's fantastic with Rock Slider. Because Rock Slider generally has Crush, your opponent often doesn't want to put too many extra troops in front of it, and then like this lets you push it way up over the top and save it in combat. It also protects you for random damage-based removal, like Strangles and Feed the Flames and Pyre Strikes and Cheap Shots. So yeah, I'm definitely going to take the Blitz here. My best Ruby decks thus far, I feel like they always have like 1 to 2 Blitzes. It doesn't look like we're going to get another Charges Payoff Matter card in this pack, which kind of sucks. I would really like a second Rock Slider. I'm kind of sad that that other one didn't wheel in the first pack. Boisterous Ballad is 10 out of 10 to pick up here. Conscript Ardent Troop with cost 2, the created card gets speed. Yeah, just like powerful, aggressive card. It fills out the lower end of our curve a little bit more here. Honestly, I wonder... Web Scribe plus Rock Slider is probably enough to play Marswell. Even without a third Charges Batters card. Oh, speak of the devil and it will appear. There's the second Rock Slider that firmly just plants us into the Marswell archetype as they're considering getting out of it. Wouldn't mind if the Stalagmage wheeled, but wouldn't be too sad either. Stalagmage is meteor by us if we don't get it outpost. This pack doesn't have anything too particularly exciting in it. I guess I can grab this Dingle here. Yeah, I'm gonna grab the Tail of Carnage, actually. Diligence, the troop gets +3 power permanently. This card actually gets out of hand on Rock Slider on occasion, so maybe we'll play that if we end up short on playables, but hopefully our third pack can be really kind to us. We actually only have 14 playables in here right now, because remember we do have these 2 coins, but pack 3 usually is a good payoff for Ruby if you're in it. The set 5 pack contains the most powerful Ruby cards in the format on average. The Thornweaver wheeled back around to us. I guess I'll sneak that for now. I'm really not terribly impressed with this card. It gives you +2 temporary resources to reach different Ardent Race among troops you control. I feel like in draft, our average card quality is going to be a little bit better than this. A lot of the time, this is just like a 3/4 that just like adds a little bit more pressure to the board. And a lot of the time, you can't super capitalize on it. It's a pretty good follow-up if you have a Rock Slider in play from the third turn. But if you don't have Rock Slider in play, I feel like it's just pretty terrible on average. Okay, well, we're going to run off some Scraptooth Gnashers here at the end, and maybe if we get a bunch of Brute Ground Bashers, we'll play those. Those aren't particularly exciting in Marswell because they are neutral factions, so they don't generate charges for us. But if we get a lot of them, we might play them. We're up to 15 playables in this pack now, so I guess Thornweaver's not super playable, or like 14-ish. Still picking up stinkers. I'm not going to play Arachnid or a Distract, so I'm just going to take the Burly Botanist because it's the most playable card in that pack. Sweet, and the Blitzer came back around to us. I'm pretty unlikely to play the Scraptooth Gnasher, like I said, so the Blitzer's a card that I'm definitely happy to play, so let's do that. Let's take another Shroud, I guess. Man, so we passed the Scraptooth Dasher for that Blitzer. If we get enough Brute Ground Bashers, 3 Dashers is a lot. It'll be kinda sad we don't have the 4th, right? It'll be interesting to see if that punishes us. Basher's definitely the payoff out of those types. This pack's pretty good. There's a Deranged Marauder and a Daring Freebooter here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 troops that cost 2 or less, so I think I can go ahead and grab the Deranged Marauder here. I think the Freebooter is more likely to wheel out of all the cards in this pack. This is a pretty powerful piece of top end. On Assault, whenever one of our troops attacks, it gets 1 at random, either -1 cost, +1 attack, or +1 defense. We put a Swift Strike gem in here as its minor socket, so it's going to be a pretty powerful bomb. There's another Freebooter here. There's also a Treacherous Pass. How many Diligence troops do I have? I only have Flame Guard and Righteous Outlaw, right? So I don't think that's worth picking up Treacherous Pass. On the flip side, I guess Pass is just, like, really good against all the Dreadling decks, right? And there's a lot of those in this format. There's also an Iotachi Brute and a Freebooter in this pack. Brute's a pretty good pickup for aggressive decks. Like, just playing a 4-3 on the 3rd turn of the game is pretty fantastic. And we do have 1, 2, 3, we saw 5... Yeah, I think I'm going to pick the Brute up just so we can be aggressive on average as opposed to trying to be more controlling. There's also a Wrong Turn in this pack that I'm sure someone's going to mention if I don't comment on it. I don't think that card's particularly good. It's good on, like, exactly turn 4 after you've had an aggressive curve, so I think it's a little bit too narrow on average. I'm going to grab this Brute, and we're going to hope the Freebooter wheels out of this pack as well. Broodnet is a fantastic piece of pseudo removal. Exhaust target troop, it gets started turns to 3 power or less exhausted, so it just keeps those checked basically. Astral Sight is kind of sick with Rock Slider, but there's no way we're playing a triple Sapphire card consistently in this deck. Out of this pack, we're probably hoping the Trash Mute wheels for our reserves. This pack, Mechanized Aerialist, Battlefield Ironsmith, and Warband Ruffian are all fantastic cards. I think I'm going to go ahead and grab the Warband Ruffian, though. I've only got 1, 2, 3... I've got 4 cards that cost 2 or less to be with the Ironsmith, and Warband Ruffian is just such a powerful bomb all on its own. Just, like, often a 3-4 for 4 that has Rage 2, just, like, super excited to have access to this. So, there's a Mama Yeti in this pack. The real question is, are we willing to gamble for the Mama Yeti? We've taken 4 cards in this pack, so we have 3 packs to grab a Baby Yeti at this point. And I don't think I remember passing a Baby Yeti. None of the other cards in this pack are super exciting. There's a Battlefield Ironsmith here that we would certainly play. Do we believe we got burned on the last Mama Yeti, and it kind of stings. It kind of stings. Yeah, I'm gonna grab the Battlefield Ironsmith just because it's an Ardent Troop. I'm sure we're about to immediately see Baby Yeti. Nope, not punished. That feels good. I think super exciting in this pack either way. I'll just cut the Twilight Reverend in case someone's hoping that wheels, I think. We've got 20 playables now, so we just need 2 more pickups here, which would be nice. Hopefully those Freebooters come back around. Ashwood Transmuter. This is one of my favorite cards in this set as a Ruby common. Not only is it Ardent, but it can discard a card and create a random Ruby common in our hand. So this is a card that lets us play extra pieces of extra resources in our deck and not feel bad about it in the mid to late game because we can convert them into something that's not a resource. Only need 1 more playable here, so in pretty good shape. Pretty happy with how this deck turned out. I love the Rock Slider archetype. It's one of my favorites for sure. Cremate is a fantastic pickup. It's a piece of reach and its removal. It adds to the lower end of the curve in our deck, and we're kind of a little bit expensive here, so that's nice. I really would have liked like one more 1/2 drop in this deck, but it's not too bad overall. Anything we draft at this point is going to have to be an upgrade for a card that we already have. I think our first upgrade is the Windborn Ascension. This card loses a little bit of merit since we're on the Ardent Matters archetype. So we ended up with a Feed the Flames, a Broodnet, a Pyre Strike, an Explosive Interlude, and a Cremate. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of removal. That's pretty good. Yep, nothing in this pack really worth playing. I guess I'll grab the Shock Duster here, because if we come across the deck that's particularly aggressive, we might end up playing this. Also worth noting, we got super excited about these Scraptooth Gnashers in that pack too. Not a single Brute Crown Basher to be seen, which is the payoff. Like I said, drafting those troops that have like the synergies matters basically is always a huge risk, and rarely do you get paid off. When you do get paid off, the upside is high, but when you don't, it's pretty miserable. Nothing super exciting in this pack. Basically, just picking up the Dredge End here. Yeah, we've got 22 playables here. This is probably going to be a 9 Ruby and then 7 Sapphire deck, so that we will have 10 and 8 overall. We're mostly Ruby, but we do want to be able to play our Sapphire cards pretty consistently. Maybe this is an 11-7, actually. Yeah, it's probably 11-7. We've only got 1, 2, 3, 4. Do I have any double Ruby cards? I have 2 double Ruby cards. Yeah, it's probably right to go. It's probably right to just go 11. To go 11-7. Because, like, we could play a game, like, even if we get all of our Sapphire cards caught in our hand without being able to play them, it's only 4 cards, so... Honestly, there might even be an argument for just, like, playing this deck as mono Ruby, but I think, like, the Cloudbounder and the couple of Sapphire cards we have here do lend to the power level of the deck. I'd have to replace 4 cards in here, plus I'd lose a coin, so I think we're just gonna do what we do here. Select Marzul as our champion, and add some resources and call it a day, so 10 of these, and then 6 of these. Put a Swift Strike gem in the old Deranged Marauder. Where Marzul at? Alright, sweet. So I'm going to go ahead and save, and stay tuned for some gameplay videos followed by a wrap-up here. Remember, if you enjoyed today's videos, to like them on YouTube and share them on your social media. Past that, if you're enjoying my content, I'd encourage you to show a little bit of support by using the subscribe button there on YouTube. It doesn't cost you anything. You can also support myself financially directly by subscribing on Twitch for varying amounts, becoming a patron on Patreon. The information on how to do both of those things down below this video in the description. You can also support my content by supporting my sponsors. HexPrimal.com would love to sell you some Hex TCG singles. And if you use code Jeff5 at checkout, not only will you save 5% on your order, but you'll also be supporting my content here. Thanks for watching, folks, and stay tuned for the matches.